Many years ago, numerous demons landed on Earth, transforming it into a war for a variety of species. Although humanity had its share of awakened people with supernatural skills early in the battle, they were too few in number and lacked significant fighting strength, rapidly putting mankind in a disadvantaged position. Using guns and nuclear weapons, mankind was only able to establish 10 defensive lines, frantically attempting to repel the attack of the 10,000 races. Over a decade, 2 of humanity's defensive lines failed, and the human race's loss grew more certain. In this desperate scenario, mankind was forced to battle to the death against the 10,000 races. It is believed that since the beginning of the battle with the 10,000 species, the Eastern Human Alliance alone has lost nearly 1 million military personnel. As weaponry grew exhausted and the number of people with supernatural talents expanded, countries started to rely on legions of these talented individuals to help them on the battlefield. To retake their country and assure the continuation of the human species, humans must continue to grow the size of these legions and engage in warfare. Thus, they are in the 9th year of the 10,000 races. The largest-scale conscription in Hua's history has begun. In this, the Eastern Alliance's trial city, is located on the northern boundary. Someone revealed that Chen Guohai, a 19-year-old with a level 2 electric decay ability, died in the 10th defensive line of the 10,000 races battleground. He perished in a violent struggle with a rotting monster, leaving barely half a palm. He went on to tell that Su Li, a 22-year-old with level 3 fire ability, died at the 9th defensive line of the 10,000 races battleground. Carrying a tremendous amount of explosives, she exploded her own ability source, demolishing a bridge of 10,000 races, but her remains were lost in the flames. He delivered a magnificent speech, and behind him is a list of the slain, returned from the front lines last month. They are friends, relatives, brothers and sisters. With tears in his eyes, he said, "They are the heroes of Yi City and the land of Hua." Everyone grieved, and the seasoned mayor went on to reveal that a few months ago, the 9th defensive line was lost. If the 10,000 races continue to break their walls, your city will take the brunt of the damage. We have no way out. The Eastern Alliance is ready to collect 1 million people with supernatural talents for an assault against the 10,000 races. And what should they, the younger generation of Yi City, do? He asked. They all screamed with resolve, "We want to protect our homeland, mountains, and rivers." This was a small manipulation, but it worked, and the younger generation fell for it since they all wanted to be soldiers. Many of the individuals who fell for this manipulation wanted to be on the front lines, with the exception of one who did not applaud or say anything at all. Everyone pulled out their paperwork, and many were sent to the front lines. The following individual was the main character. The register listed his name, Nan Zing, from Yi City, 20 years old, and his magical skill had not yet emerged. And is now studying architecture at Yi City Industrial University. The person who was enrolling the recruits politely inquired if he wanted to join and serve on the front lines. He replied with a serious tone no. The man was taken aback since he had not expected such a response. Nan Zing elected to remain behind as part of the logistics. Everyone was surprised that he wasn't heading to the front lines. Everyone was surprised since remaining behind for logistics is reserved for women, children, and the elderly. Is this not merely cowardice? Someone questioned. The man exclaimed that he was in wonderful health and had fantastic marks. The front lines need more personnel than ever before. In an era when their country's existence is at jeopardy. He inquired if he had forgotten the guilt they felt when the 10,000 races killed their species. Nan Zing responded calmly, saying he had never forgotten, but he had made his decision. His classmate yelled at him, attempting to encourage him by reminding him that he is still the one who rescued students alone during the mutant beast tide. Someone said in a forceful tone, "Calm down." The commander was irritated, but the kid had already made his decision. He informed everyone that enlistments are not required. It all comes down to personal willingness and accountability. The commander glanced at his grades, which were excellent, and murmured about what a waste of talent. The commander instructed him to take his form and depart. The protagonist just clenched his fist, but he did not want to make another scene as he had before. People yelled at him, calling him a coward and insulting him from all sides. They did not want to see him again. The main character absorbed all of these insults and just walked away, without even looking back. The next day, someone yelled that they have no clothing and share the same coat as their colleagues. This is a passage from a poem about troops heading to battle, and it indicates the soldiers' determination to fight alongside one another even if they are not adequately prepared. Every soldier was confident, feeling that this was their win. The citizens were rooting for the troops to win, shouting for them to preserve their home and country in order to maintain their honor. The main character was wearing a sweatshirt to keep his face hidden, maybe out of shame, and his phone rang while he was watching from the back. He noticed the breaking news on his phone, and the second piece of news was that his refusal to serve in the military was trending. Comments about his rejection were exposed, and some believe it was the wrong decision. The others believed the same thing, believing that he was fleeing from obligations and tasks that belonged to their generation. Nan Zing was angry as he read all of these remarks. What made him more angrier was not the insults hurled at him, but what he knew. He knew that all of them were heroes, yet in this struggle, it was like a moth eating a flame. This million-strong army underestimates the might of the extraterrestrial species. In his previous life, he too entered the army early and went to the front lines to battle the enemy. He finally joined the war command, becoming a relatively skilled strategist. As mankind was forced to withdraw step by step, he committed his life to researching the 5 primary abilities, finally implanting 5 different types of talent trees inside himself. As long as these 5 skills could be upgraded to establish a synergy, they could alter the course of the war. Suddenly, before he could finish his plan, mankind was defeated. He was killed by one of the 10,000 race's strongest beings. He couldn't accept it. If he had upgraded his talents sooner, he could have saved civilization. He was reborn either due to obsession or destiny. And the talent trees that he had put inside himself were fully restored. Nan Zing has 5 abilities, the first of which is the beast taming talent tree, capable of taming many monsters concurrently, strengthening their bloodlines, and commanding mutant beasts. The second one is the elemental talent tree, which grants mastery of banned elemental spells such as water, fire, phoenix, and lightning. The more elemental energy spent, the stronger the spell. The third one is the Azura talent tree, which improves berserk amplification with each kill. Achieving maximum concentration turns you into an Azura, capable of annihilating hundreds of opponents. The fourth is the formation talent tree, which includes mastery of diverse formations with endless stacking potential and the ability to unleash limitless power. The fifth one is the undead talent tree, which can summon the undead. The larger the cost, the more powerful the summoned beings. Nan Zing realizes that improving these 5 abilities takes a significant number of source stones and time. And as long as he can maximize those 5 talents and plan over thousands of kilometers, he will be the strongest. The protagonist pledged to himself that even if the 10 defensive lines fail and he is left alone, he would fight the 10,000 races to save mankind. But right now, even if he travels to the battlefield, he will not be able to kill many alien species, nor will he be able to gather enough source stones to upgrade his abilities. Instead, he will risk losing his talents prematurely. Nan Zing determined that the quickest approach to swiftly obtain a large quantity of source stones was to join trial groups. And the place he's referring to is the place, which is teeming with mutant monsters and the ideal location to stock up on stock stones for his skill upgrades. Now he simply has to hurry up and get source stones to level up his abilities. At the Yi City branch trial groups. These people were amazed that no one had predicted that the trial groups, which were originally established to teach supernaturally endowed individuals during the first year of the 10,000 Races War, would still be useful today. But they were no longer useful since every youngster had left, and no one came to the trial groups for training anymore. They could not be more appropriate for all of these ladies, who are caring for all of these mutant monsters and converting them into meals for the frontline warriors. A lady on crutches spoke to Auntie Wang, warning them not to harm themselves. Wang smiled and assured Xiao Lu that it was nothing. She's merely concerned about delaying supplies for the front lines. She wondered whether they could finish the assignment this month. The lady next to her agreed that it was embarrassing that they were all aging, since they couldn't even leave the alloy sword correctly, and they couldn't simply deal with those ferocious mutant beasts one by one. Before they could finish speaking, the main character greeted them all and informed them that he came here for training at the trial grounds. Nan Zing heard what they stated, and because they were short on hands, he agreed to assist them in dealing with the mutant monsters. All the ladies let out a sigh of relief. The woman was relieved to hear this since they had been concerned about it just now. She was now about to show him the changing room. The protagonist thanked her for this. Auntie Wang was perplexed, wondering why a young guy would visit the trial grounds at this time. Her eyes widened in shock. She retrieved something from her pocket, recalling something about the young man. She remembered him as Nan Zing, who refused to go to the front lines, and she flashed the others the news on her mobile phone. Xiao Lu was trailing a sword that she couldn't pick up correctly. She told the main character that it was an alloy blade meant to cope with monsters. She urged him to be cautious. Nan Zing thanked her for the advice. Xiao Lu was pleased since this allowed them to speed up the procedure somewhat. She flushed, thinking that this man didn't say much, but he was extremely attractive. Auntie Wang interrupted her thinking, stating that no matter how attractive he is still a coward. He is the Nan Zing who refused to go to the front lines. Xiao Lu was surprised to hear that. Nan Zing entered the training room and chose an A-level challenge. No previous trial records were discovered. The protagonist was asked to indicate if he wanted to begin the level a trial. Nan Zing confirmed the commencement of the trial. On the other side, the protagonist can hear the mutant beasts howl as the gate slowly opens. The mutant animals have emerged, and for the sake of humanity's future, the main character is prepared to transform into the darkness in the night. Hundreds of monsters rushed at Nan Zing from all sides. Even if it means receiving hundreds of insults, he will save mankind. He exhaled to relax himself. He opened his eyes and prepared to attack. While the mutant monsters were jumping at him, he decided to use his beast taming talent. Chapter 2. The main character avoided the onslaught of other mutant monsters. While fighting, he remembered that in his past life on the front lines, he had to deal with mutant animals as well as the 10,000 different races. So he understands the weaknesses of these mutant monsters, particularly the umbrella bird. Because of this, he was aware of the mutant creature's weak spots, allowing him to deal with them promptly. He was battling every beast like an expert, dispatching them with ease. He kicked the umbrella bird's head, blowing its head off. When he saw the sauce stone, he extracted it. He already knows that the talent upgrade mechanism should be like his previous life, as killing an umbrella bird should yield a source stone. The talent tree was shown to the main character in details. The number of monsters that can be tamed is 1, and the tameable beast level is 0. The mutant beast tamer level is also 0, 1/800. But the main character was unconcerned because as his skill grew, he will be able to tame another mutant beast. He withdrew another source stone, and as long as he develops and recovers, he can withstand such severe traumas. Another wave of mutant beasts came at him, but he wasn't worried as he could avoid every attack from them hitting vital points. Dealing with them quickly shouldn't be a problem. The mutant beast roared in rage. Nan Zing chopped its head off in an instant. The other mutant animals used this opportunity to attack him while he was being distracted by killing another mutant beast, but the protagonist dodged. However, as he was dodging, he attacked by kicking another mutant beast. When he landed on the ground, he opted to tackle the distraction above him first. In an instant, he vanished before the mutant beast's eyes. And he was able to dispatch the mutant beasts that were around in seconds. His talent became stronger, and he can now tame 5 monsters. This is just as he expected, as his efficiency has grown. When he turned around, his aura engulfed his whole body, and he saw a massive mutant beast. The protagonist was taken aback when he laid eyes on the Umbrella Bird Emperor. The Umbrella Bird Emperor launched an attack, and Nan Zing managed to block it, although his current physical condition made it more challenging. Taking down the Umbrella Bird Emperor will be a tough task, but he is determined to succeed in the end. The mutant was about to attack him, but the main character quickly leaped away, realizing that confronting it directly would be too dangerous. He turned around with a strategic plan to target the most vulnerable areas. However, his attack proved ineffective, failing to leave even a scratch on the mutant beast. He noticed that the mutant beast's durability appeared to be improved compared to his past experiences. He readied himself to leap. He leapt. He prepared his sword with unwavering determination, refusing to be deterred by the mutant's newfound strength. Everyone outside heard an announcement that it's time for lunch. Two ladies who had a negative opinion of Nan Zing were standing outside. Xiao Lu was perplexed, questioning the reason for not heading to the cafeteria. Wang assured her, explaining that she was simply curious to see how long the main character could maintain his act. The two women were furious with the main character, convinced that if he even thought about escaping, they would take him down. Xiao Lu was surprised, explaining to both the woman that an A-level trial doesn't appear to be any easier than the front lines. An announcement was made that Nan Zing, a trial participant, has successfully completed the first floor of the A-level trial. Wang was skeptical, assuming that the guy must have been overwhelmed and unable to handle the situation. She felt a sudden impact against her. Wang was taken aback, collapsing to the ground in disbelief, while both of them were left astounded by what they saw. As the main character emerged from the training room, he resembled a survivor of a zombie apocalypse. His kill count for mutant monsters was 2,000. This was a new record for the trial tower's first level. All three females were confused as to how he ended up looking like this. What surprised them even more was that he had passed an A-level trial. The main character verified that he had passed. He went away, informing the women that the mutant beast's corpses could now be processed. Xiao Lu turned to see what he meant, and her eyes widened. There was a mound of monsters in front of them, but she gathered herself and told the elder woman to organize them and begin processing them right away. Nan was having a shower, and he was thinking to himself, aware that his pace and method were just barely correct. The experience he needed after leveling up has more than doubled. His skill information were revealed. The amount of monsters that can be tamed is now 2,000, and the tameable beast level is 1. Mutant Beast Tamer level. Level 2 indicates that he has certainly progressed. He was dissatisfied, however, since he hoped to reach level 3 on the first floor, which he recognized would not be possible. While taking a shower, he heard an announcement that the second offensive round was about to begin. After hearing the news, he realizes that a level 7 super ability holder, Son of Thunder Punishment, and a level 6 super ability holder, Flaming Monster, have arrived on the front lines. In his past life, the Son of Thunder Punishment and the Flaming Giant would be quickly vanquished and killed upon joining the battlefield, exacerbating the frontline situation with even more sad casualties. He was more determined than ever, knowing there wasn't much time left until the 8th defensive line collapsed. He switches off the shower, knowing that he needs it to expedite his preparations since it is a race against time. And there is no time to relax. He must proceed to the second level of the trial tower right now. Auntie Wang did not anticipate the youngster to pass the trial. They assumed that with such serious injuries, he would need a significant amount of rest. Her other buddy claimed that he gave it his best since, after all, this is an A-level A trial and few people have passed it before. Auntie Wang emphasized that attempting to do too much at once is impractical, and that it is best to go gradually. She wondered how many days he'd need to recuperate with such terrible injuries. She wished that he would report as disabled and never return. The other lady saw the main character coming towards the training room. She attempted to grab her friend's attention by pretending to cough, telling her to calm down. Her tone and the way she looks at him indicate a small anger. She inquired whether he completed the job on the first level and what more does he want, annoyed. Nan Zing did not mind that she was disrespectful to him. He said calmly, "I'm going to the second floor to continue the trial." The lady froze for a second. She was shocked that he was going to the second level despite his grave injuries. She questioned what he was attempting to prove. Despite knowing who he was, Xiao Lu was not disrespectful. She addressed him calmly and informed him that the second level is full of big mutant monsters. She advised that they wait till he gets well and then locate somebody to aid him. The elderly guy agreed since those monsters were formidable. The main character thanked them but opted to do it alone. This lady seemed to despise the main character. She exclaimed fiercely, "If he is that capable, why not go to the front line? Many people didn't understand why he was showing off here, and Xiao Lu didn't either, as it seemed unusual for someone like Nan Zing, who doesn't seem to fear death by hiding in the back. He entered the second floor trial. The mutant beasts were already approaching him, but the main character was prepared, as he had been before. He swung his sword and killed a swarm of mutant beasts in front of him. As he was battling, a creature loomed behind him. Nan Zing let out a roar of pain. He then rolled over. Nan was already beaten and bruised, but the fire that blazed in his eyes had not yet faded. He soon understood that he lacked the benefit of height or strength, and he couldn't afford to take strikes head-on, particularly given his injuries. The creatures roared, ready to kill him, as they all started to mock him. The protagonist's eyes burned with rage as he realized that these animals were indeed mocking him. A crimson aura surrounded his body, since he is not the kind of guy to rush into a confrontation unprepared. His eyes glowed brighter, as did the murderous intent he emitted. The animals began to float, and they became confused, not knowing what was going on. However, they were unable to accomplish anything since they were slain instantly. Some were stabbed with his flashing red sword. He cut the beast. And a lot of blood poured out of it, and it screamed in pain. However, the main character didn't care and withdrew the source stone. After holding the source stone in his hand, he understood that level 2 mutant monsters are tameable, so he opted to tame them first before dealing with the other beasts. He activated his beast taming ability. His hand began to glow more brightly. Many monsters raced towards him, as if there was no end to them. He utilized an odd method that caused all beasts within a specific distance to fall abruptly. The creatures struggled to get up. Nan thought this would be enough to keep them in line for the time being. Nan Zing's crimson aura enveloped his body, and his eyes glowed like a demon. As he intends to attain level 3 in one go. 3 days later, in the rear trial, Groundji City's branch. Wang's friend asked for someone to help her over here. While people were working hard to move the meat, Nan Zing was just sitting there, probably resting or something. He was now level 6, and the number of beasts he could tame was now 2,000. The main character was impressed with himself that in just 3 days, he was able to kill over 10,000 beasts. His theory was correct, as this method was more efficient than the front line. He thought to himself that now that his beast taming talent reached level 6, he could now head to the wilderness tonight. A place where even 5 ability holders can't easily escape from. Due to the threat of super ability holders and firearms, beasts rarely attack the city directly. But taming them is the key to his strength against the 10,000 races. An old man came to him asking him if he needs work overtime to move one more bunch today, as they can work overtime anytime to send supplies to the front line. Nan Zing got up, and he told the old man that he's not doing that today, as he had to leave early. The old man was confused, but he agreed. Wang glared at him. She believed that he was giving up. Another worker had enough of her nonsense, and he told her in annoyance that even though he stayed back, their trial tower's progress has far improved thanks to him. In his opinion, the guy was doing pretty well. Wang spoke angrily that she wasn't even talking to him. The main character heard their argument, but he just walked away. Xiao Lu came close to the main character with a small blush. She suggested that for him to rest for a while as he's been working hard lately, and she praised him for doing a great job. With a small smile on his face, he thanked her, but he had to go right now. With a kind smile, she bid him farewell. Meanwhile, soldiers were going to battle. One of the soldiers shouted to make way and not to block the road. Because they got wounded people from the front line, and they need urgent medical attention. The main character saw an influx of injury to Yi City at the 5th defensive line, indicating that the situation on the front lines was severe. People were astonished as they saw the rockets fly away, and they believed they had gained an advantage. The protagonist felt fear when he saw the missiles since it was the day the defensive line fell, which was about to happen. He put on his mask and new clothing to complete his disguise. He didn't have time to waste since he had to move right away. One of the vehicles came to a halt while the others continued to go. A soldier came out to check the truck, and he cursed when the vehicle broke down. To him, among the other troops, this was the worst moment for it to break down. The blonde proposed leaving the vehicle here and collecting it in the morning since mutant wolves were around. Safety is their first priority. The second soldier agreed and proceeded to get his things and catch a ride with them. The soldier observed a man racing towards him. The blonde wondered who he was. She questioned why he was leaving the city at this time of night. The blonde told him to be cautious since there were mutant giant wolves that were very deadly. The second girl informed her older sister that the director had called many times because the city hospital was overflowing with injured soldiers from the front lines who needed their treatment right now. The blonde argued that driving may not be safely passed, and leaving that individual might be harmful. Her sister argued that this area is a den of mutant giant wolves, and that if the wolves attack, they will die and the medication will not reach the city. She reasoned that their medical herb collection team lacks the necessary equipment to defend themselves, and she believed that that guy is delusional and insane, and they should simply leave. The blonde eventually agreed. But before she could move, she was stunned by what she saw. The soldier who was outside checking the vehicle collapsed and died. As she peered in the mirror to see directly behind the vehicle, she spotted a massive wolf. Her sister was in a panic, calling for her blonde sister to drive the vehicle before the enormous wolf came up to them. However, before they could move, a big mutant wolf appeared in front of them. The blonde was in a panic. The other woman was focused, pointing her rifle at the wolf and yelling for her blonde sister to hurry and drive. She began firing, shooting the wolf many times. The protagonist was far away, but he could hear gunfire coming from the medicinal herb gathering team's direction. When he peered around in the shadows, he saw many eyes staring at him. He had already recognized that they were not just attacking but also ambushing him here. The main character was not concerned since this really worked in his favor, sparing him the hassle of looking for them. The wolves approached him, and the wind began to pick up around him. As a result of the wolves' ambush, the main character discovered that the monsters had become wiser due to an increase in spiritual energy concentration. Back with the females, the wolves were still alive and potentially able to dodge the bullet. The wolf growled in rage at these foolish humans. The woman reloaded her rifle and warned Xiao Nan to be cautious. Is it just me, or are these artists sloppy with their names? What's up with using the same name every time? Anyway, the woman recommended Xiao Nan to take advantage of this chance to drive. Xiao Nan was determined to ensure that they both went to the city. Returning to the main character, several wolves lapped at Nan Zing, eager to eat him. However, with fast movements, he was able to kill 2 or 3 wolves. While fighting, he spotted the Wolf King approaching him. He concluded that with this opportunity, he could defeat the wolf pack and rescue the medical team. The wolf moved towards him, growling slowly. Nan Zing determined to unleash all of his power since the boss was present. He employed his beast-taming talent. At that time, a tremendous aura spread throughout the battlefield, and an aura like a tree sprang from the ground as he reawakened his strength. Before the wolves could react, a tree root emerged in front of them. Many tree roots protruded from the ground, gripping the wolves left and right. The Wolf King just looked at this scene in confusion. The Wolf King growled as it sensed something, but it had no idea what was going on. The wolf is attempting to resist this strange energy on his own. However, it was ineffective since the protagonist unleashed much more potent energy. The wolves snarled in defiance. A tremendous aura encircled Nan Zing's body. He performed something so stunning that the wolves were shocked by what they saw. An energy root emerged underneath the main character and lifted him up. He leaped from the root. He was now above the Wolf King since taming their leader was his first objective. A red energy emerged on his hand. The beast roared in rage. He slammed his palm on its head. His talent was effective, and the wolf was tamed. His crimson energy began to spread throughout the area. A second later, the Wolf King bowed to his lord, as did the other wolves around. Back with the girls, the girl was firing at the wolves, while the blonde female was preparing to drive. Both of them were flabbergasted since the vehicle would not start. The woman was terrified, certain that they were doomed. The wolves shattered the windows of the vehicle, and the blonde woman screamed in terror. The wolves climbed inside the vehicle, particularly the one in front of it. The lady's eyes widened, wondering what was going on. She felt she was seeing things and pondered why the mutant wolves seemed so cute. The wolf just snapped out of it as if it was under control. The wolves returned to their master with a serene expression on their faces. Both females were speechless. When the other wolves came to that area, they also bowed. The Wolf King howled, since it was he who summoned the other wolves here. The two females could see the aura from here. They immediately noticed that the giant wolves had been tamed. They were both sweating profusely from fear. The fact that a single individual tamed hundreds of wolves made them very anxious. They both wondered what level of beast is that, as it's way too incredible. The number of monsters conquered has grown, and he has tamed 1,000 steel gigantic wolves. Daily taming quota 1,000/1000. His tameable beast level is 7. The system asked whether he wanted to continue taming mutant monsters, and he said no since the soul stones he has are valuable right now, and he doesn't need to spend time taming. He smiled at the Wolf King since he had not expected to have a pet problem so soon. He patted the Wolf King since it was well behaved. He told the wolves to disperse for the time being, and he'd call them again when required. He warned the Wolf King and his fellow wolves not to harm people. He already knows that there are 3 additional uninhabited regions close to Yi City and several more in other cities. He must tame and subjugate all of the mutant monsters in these regions. While staring at the horizon, the wolves departed. For his ultimate war plan, he must gather an army of almost 10,000 mutant monsters. He is prepared to go once again, covering his face with his mask. He recalled the medical hub collecting team and realized that he needed to guarantee the medicinal herb collection team's passage was safe since it was critical. He pulled out his phone and was shocked to see a message from the manufacturer. Xiao Lu had called an emergency meeting, and he needed to make sure he showed there. The main character wondered what had happened. In the trial groups, Yi City's branch. Someone shouted at the citizens, telling them that they were a disappointment. They continued to shout that with their rapid process, he could alternate more pressure from the front line. The old man couldn't believe that it turned out that they were just struggling with just slightly higher level mutant beasts. The other guy tried to justify their city saying this is the first time Yi City has dealt with level 4 and above mutant beasts, and currently, the factory is stuffed with elderly from the rear. He explained that handling those advanced mutant beasts might require some more time to get used to it. The old man became even more furious, that they needed more time. He shouted at them angrily. The citizens were surprised at the furious shout. He wanted these people to start with those higher-level mutant beasts. The guy tried to explain that they understood and that they would send more people from Yi City to continue this difficult task. The old man declined his offer, telling them that none of them are any of use. Xiao Lu tried to argue with the old man, telling him that those high-level mutant beasts are beyond Yi City's capacity. The old man was irritated, telling her that this city is slowing down the process and that the first disaster will come from this city. He criticized the city, claiming it was irresponsible. Wang had enough, she yelled, challenging him on if he believed he is special simply because he is an officer and for calling them irresponsible. She yelled about how her husband and 3 boys had perished on the front lines for their nation. So that is why the lady despises the protagonist so much. She yelled angrily that she had worked around the clock simply to keep up with this application timeline. She was saddened because these stupid old guys used a single stupid comment to discredit all of their hard work. One of the subordinates was enraged that she had insulted an officer, and he rushed at her, preparing to hit her in the face. The lady was terrified, wondering what he would do. However, before the fool could kill Wang, Nan Zing emerged just in time and punched the villain. The guy was instantly knocked out. I'm happy that the main character defended Wang even if she dislikes the protagonist. It's not appropriate to mistreat elderly people in this manner, particularly a defenseless woman. Anyway, enough of my ranting. When everyone saw the protagonist, they were taken aback, particularly Wang. Everyone was pleased to see him. Well, not everyone. This guy was stunned, wondering what he was doing here, but what shocked him even more was that he took out a level 5 ability holder in one move, making him question whether he may have awakened his skill. The greedy old man inquired about the main character's identity. He pulled out his revolver and pointed it at him, saying that he was disrespecting his superior. Nan Zing concluded that he was the traitor who acquired a fortune from the conflict. He was recognized, and his execution became worldwide after 12 years on the battleground of 10,000 races. In his previous life, he was already trafficking military supplies from the back to the front lines, inflicting major losses by the time he was detected. He deduced that he must have set his sights on Yi City's processing speed, intending to slaughter more high-level mutant beasts through Yi City's efforts, lining his pockets in the process. And it was no surprising seeing him here. He thought to himself that he needed to deal with him, but before doing so, he should drain all the resources from him. He calmly spoke to the rude old man, that there are no rebels here looking to cause trouble. However, the citizens were enraged, yelling at the disrespectful old man for pointing his pistol at them. They complained that families had died for humanity. What more does he want from them? The gruff old guy clenched his teeth, realizing that this would not end well. He assumed they were merely elderly and frail, but it seems they still have some tenacity. The elderly geezer stared at the youngster intently because he seemed familiar to him. He recalled him as the catastrophe from the city in the news, the coward sheltering here, and he intended to murder him right now. Nan Zing grinned, informing the greedy old guy that he didn't care about his insults and threats. The other subordinate glared at him threateningly, but Nan Zing didn't mind. He informed him that he had processed tens of thousands of mutant monsters in the trial tower and that if he died, the supply process would be slowed much more. The inhabitants of Yi City, as well as the selfish old man, were startled to learn that he was the slaughterhouse ace. The main character was interested in those high-level mutant beasts, and since they can interfere with human minds with their malign energy. He deduced that because of this, the other trial groups also struggle with them, which is why he came to try his luck in Yi City. He told the greedy old man that he would actually like to take on this task, but the officer wants to kill him, so there is no much he can do, he said, turning the tables around. The old man started sweating bullets. This boy was a problem. He realized he had turned the tables on him. Judging by the reaction of everyone here, he realized what he said was not false. He decided to go with the flow, which is going to be his biggest mistake of his life, because the main character just made him take the bait. The greedy old man smirked, deciding that since Nan Zing was willing to take it on, it suits him just fine. The greedy old guy consented, but he required both of them to sign a military pledge. Tomorrow, he will dispatch 5,000 level 4 mutant animals to the Yi City testing group. And if he completes them within a week, he will let him go. With a glare, he threatened that if he failed, they would settle all accounts, old and new. The greedy old guy departed. The public couldn't believe he had to make a military commitment and, if he failed, would be killed. Xiao Lu was concerned about him. She wanted to know whether he could do it alone. She asked whether they could assist him. Nan Zing told her and everyone else that he could manage it, even though it would be difficult for everyone. Nan is aware that even among the 4th level mutant monsters, this kind is among the strongest, with great defense and powerful mental disruption. What truly irritated him about the greedy old guy was that he wanted to remove not just supplies but also minerals that were valuable to this city. This dog will do anything for money, he reasoned. But thanks to him, those demons are perfect material for upgrading his Azura talent. He planned to slaughter the beast he has, upgrade his talent, then root out Lin Yukai and his links once and for all. The following day, one of the officers informed some of the individuals that 5,000 4th-level mutant beasts had been delivered, and all the Yi City branch needed to do was check them out and sign off. The big guy was now going to read out the military orders. Nan Zing is tasked with processing 5,000 4th-level mutant beasts. I'm not sure whether the fat man's facial expression is displeasure or not, but he went on to state that he needed to finish this duty in a week. Under wartime rules, Nan Zing, as a logistics soldier, will be under the authority of military supply officer Lin Yukai. The other workers present were charged with insubordination, instigating worker disturbances, and assaulting an officer. Any delay will result in combined costs, with no requirement for higher permission. There will be an instant execution by firing squad. Everyone was shocked to hear that. The fat man quickly shut them up, questioning them if they didn't easily agree when they made the military order yesterday, and all of them quickly shut their mouths. With a sneer on his face, he was delighted that when the time came, he would personally kill Nan Zing. The fat guy handed him the document to sign when they received the 4th level mutant monsters, and he smiled, stating he was certain he would like killing him. And Nan Zing snatched the document. He stared at him sternly, informing him that all of this talk was from a messenger. The subordinate that was there was outraged with this brat. The big guy stopped his subordinate, suggesting that they needed to be more forgiving of people who were going to die. Xiao Lu was concerned since, unlike the lesser levels, managing these higher-level mutant monsters required the use of anesthetic smoke. All 3 of them put on their masks, and the one who just finished said that the primary components of their anesthesia had been taken to the frontline field's hospitals, and there wasn't much left here. And he is unsure if they have enough dosages right now, so he must use extreme caution. Nan Zing took his advice. All 3 of them departed. The subordinate is aware that such mutant monsters may use mental assaults, and he is perplexed as to why the protagonist seems so certain in his victory. He pondered whether he may be psychic. The big guy said that he had previously tried his psychic powers on the boy, and he had no response to his mental strength. The 4th mutant monsters had powerful mental abilities that even he finds overpowering, so he was convinced that the main character would fail, and they would only have to wait to kill him. He reasoned that he'd most likely be cray by then, incapable of consciously fearing the coming death. The obese man could not believe his boss would put his confidence in a catastrophe like Nan Zing. He released his dark purple aura with a sadistic smirk on his face, deciding that after murdering the boy, all of the riches would go to him, and they'd falsify the reports afterward. And the subordinate, whomever he is, was going to make sure it happened. Meanwhile, Nan Zing was not surprised that the 4th level mutant beast's physical immobility and mental strength remained formidable. The 4th level mutant monsters encircled him on all sides. Nan Zing was impressed these beasts can conjure vivid illusions. The skeleton grabbed him before he could react, crushing him in its hand. But the main character was not going to fall for these ridiculous illusions. He thrust his sword into the skull of the mutant beast. The mutant beast died, and the main character drew his knife from its head, knowing that as long as the mutant beast could not mentally control him, he would have nothing but stationary targets. He began absorbing the monster's energy since he still needed more malevolent energy to improve his Azura talent. He gazed at the beasts, expecting them to show off their true skills. He looked down at the ground and spotted a black force that gripped his feet. This is what he desired, as he wanted the mutant beast to unleash their full potential. He was preparing to attack. But he heard a voice telling him that he was too exhausted and that he should let it all go, because life would be simpler that way. The main character was astonished and perplexed, not understanding what was going on. The black energy was able to show him his father, and the strange creature continued to implore him to consider the price he paid, as well as others who have passed away. He questioned if it was all worth it, considering the enormous power of the 10,000 races. How could he want vengeance? His mental barriers have deteriorated as a result of this unknown monster forcing him to recollect his prior existence, and a black glow can now be seen in his eyes. The mystery figure insulted his ideals about saving humanity, claiming that he already knew the destiny of mankind. This entity was about to speak more when Nan Zing intervened, grabbing the darkness from his face. He gradually began to remove the gloom from his face. His aura enveloped his whole body as he did this. He said firmly that his vendetta against 10,000 races must be resolved. His mental barriers were able to be reinforced once again. He went on to say that mankind is responsible for its own destiny. The mystery entity was stunned, wondering how he could sustain all of this mental force. Nan Zing's Azura talent ignited, and the mystery entity panicked, yelling for him to give up immediately. Nan Zing was even more determined since using his Azura talent and entering the Azura state would significantly increase his physical and mental strength. The enigmatic beast's malevolent energy will be the quickest way to improve his skill. His Azura talent aura grew stronger on his palm. Nan demanded that this power become his obediently. His Azura talent ignited, and it began to absorb the black energy. It absorbed a tremendous quantity of dark energy, causing the main character to experience intense anguish as his eyes darkened and his pupils became crimson. As veins developed in his forehead, he grew fangs and screamed, most likely in pain. The bodyguard was reporting to his boss, and he was shocked that they were still processing the goods. He ordered the other officer to keep the other party under control until he figured something out. The lady next to the boss requested that he spend more time with her. The greedy old man didn't pay her any mind, as he was thinking about the demands of the goods that are getting more urgent. He realized that not only Hua country, but also other countries' front lines are in worse shape. He decided to make quick cash while there's still a chance. Otherwise, all the mutant beasts he has worked so hard on to prepare will go down the drain. He reasoned that his capable subordinates have big appetites, and their cuts are making him wince. And he had to be careful during those military dogs-covered investigations. He drank his wine as this was a headache for him. He cursed in his mind, wondering where he could find a suitable place to handle a high-tier mutant beast. The greedy old man heard his comrade saying something, but he didn't hear what he said, so he wanted him to speak up, as he couldn't hear him clearly. His subordinate told him about his military order, and he placed at the Yi City branch regarding their task. He thought that they had failed and asked if they had been taken care of. His subordinates disagreed, telling him that they had returned to the Yi City branch today from elsewhere. And it's been only 4 days, and now they have almost finished. His subordinate revealed that those high-level mutant beasts are nearly level 4, which is already beyond Yi City's capacity, have been defeated. The greedy old man was shocked that they had finished it. The subordinate told him that the task of handling 5,000 4th-level mutant beasts has been confirmed as completed. And all this was done by one called Nan Zing who did the slaughtering. The greedy old man laughed crazily, asking how the kid had been holding up. His subordinate remarked that he seemed exhausted, but he would be okay. The boss told him to keep an eye on the youngster for him, and if he did anything other than kill mutant monsters, he knew what to do. His subordinate understood. The overweight man was still shocked that the youngster had done the task. Right now, the other staff were assisting Nan Zing in recovering swiftly. The overweight guy was still puzzled how this youngster did it. His current talent tree information was displayed: current Azura level, 5th level, talent skill, alloy evil blade is unlocked. Skill description, adds level 1, / attribute to the weapon, disregarding protection to some degree, duration, 5 seconds. While reviewing his skill information, the protagonist was pleased to see that his physical and mental strength had risen over the last several days. Despite the fact that he has not yet achieved level 6, he has gained access to the first skill of the aura talent. Because he can now explore further into the forest and tame higher-level creatures, his plants will grow faster. Auntie Wong was no longer antagonistic to the main character. She yelled, upset because if Nan Zing had not completed the mission, their city would have been sealed down by certain individuals. They were no longer terrified of the obese man, as they complained that they had just behaved high and mighty. The overweight man became more furious. When the protagonist glanced at the obese man, he nearly forgot about the other folks. He recognized that not everyone would be pleased that he had completed the work. But he didn't worry since increasing his Azura skill level improved his awareness of mental strength. As a result, he could tell that this guy has special abilities. The big guy was outraged that these folks had the arrogance to disrespect him. The youngster seemed suspicious to him now, and he wanted to investigate him more. His other subordinate noticed what he was going to do, so he stopped him. He told him that as long as Nan Zing completed his task, they didn't care about what other people thought. His subordinate gripped his shoulder firmly, warning him that if he utilizes his abilities here, the mental force of the creatures will interfere if he acts rashly. The obese man didn't care since he planned to report to the boss directly when the time came. His evil energy was directed squarely at the main character. Nan Zing could feel this. He understood he meant to attack his psyche, but unfortunately for him, he had miscalculated. This was the ideal time for him to put his Azura abilities to the test. The guy was stunned and had no idea what was going on. He looked around in surprise as he should have invaded his mental system. He wondered what was going on here. After invading the mental system, he should be able to see mental entities. He wondered why he couldn't see anything in this pitch-black darkness. Suddenly, there was a light glow behind him. When he turned around, his eyes widened with surprise. Nan Zing was able to form his first mental being. The fat man was taken aback since he did it using malign energy. But what startled him the most was that he had psychic abilities, and he pondered what degree of ability he had, given that he had obviously researched him previously, and how he could have grown his talent in such a short period of time. He was in panic, wondering who the heck this person was. Nan Zing warned the man in a threatening tone that it didn't matter who he was. He said that he was the one who desired a glimpse inside his mental realm. He then assaulted the overweight guy with lightning. The guy screamed in pain, screaming for Nan Zing to save his life. He murdered him within his own mind. Outside of the obese man's thoughts, everyone was perplexed, unsure what was going on. They watched the guy coughing up blood with a wild expression on his face, saying that all the money would be his. He began to run around his subordinate, yelling that his boss is stupid. His subordinate gazed at him in confusion. Everyone else was stunned, unsure what was going on. They assumed that being a leader must be difficult and that the stress had gotten to him. His subordinate believed he was being affected by the leftover mental power, but he realized he had gone mad. However, he realizes that if he continues in this manner, he will destroy the boss's reputation. He hits the guy and blows his head off. Everyone froze in horror. The guy apologized for the situation, stating that he had been swayed by the monster's mental strength. And he might have injured them all, so he had to kill him. He got closer to the protagonist, and he assumed he collapsed and had been psychologically disturbed. He decided to return and tell what had occurred since he feared this youngster was no longer useful. He departed, informing the others that someone would be there to handle matters and congratulating everyone on a job well done. Nobody witnessed Nan Zing's joy when he achieved level 6. Nan Zing opened his eyes. Everyone was pleased to see him awake. Surprisingly, Wang was pleased to see him awake as well. Nan Zing wondered how long he was unconscious. Xiao Lu answered that he had slept for 2 days. Wang informed the others that Comrade Nan Zing is now awake, so there is no need for them to worry, and that they should all return to work since they would never complete on time if they do not. The other lady advised Nan to get up and find something to eat. Nan Zing inquired if Lin Yukai sent more mutant beasts. She said that no, since half of their branch personnel had been called in to assist, as the factory and frontline military demands had doubled. She told him that the combat at the 9th defensive line was over, and mankind had been forced back to the 8th, entirely defeated. The situation is desperate, whether on the ground or in the air, their men have no chance against the mutant beasts of the 10,000 races. She said that the much-anticipated level 7 ability holder powerhouse, Son of Thunder Punishment, narrowly survived with one arm removed. The Flaming Giant, a behemoth with level 6 abilities, paid the ultimate sacrifice for their homeland. Nan Zing knew failure was certain, but he never imagined it would happen so soon, as it had in his previous life. Auntie Wang recalled something and informed Xiao Nan that the higher-ups had already made their choice. They said that the officer who was killed had been influenced by the monster's mental manipulation. As a result, their Yi City trial groups are entirely blameless. She informed him in a serious tone that what came next was more important than what she had just stated. The protagonist was anxious to hear it and wondered what more was there. The workers and Xiao Lu greeted Wang and Nan Zing. She cheerfully informs the main character that he was anonymously voted as the chairman of their Yi City Trial Tower section. She handed him the formal appointment letter from the higher-ups. Nan Zing was surprised. Wang informed him that she realized she had upset him many times in the past, and she pleaded for forgiveness and to bear with her from now on. She remembered that they couldn't call him Comrade Nan Zing anymore, instead, they should address him as Chief Nan Zing. When she realized this wasn't appropriate, she decided to rename him, Chief Nan. Everyone agreed with the name, and they were going to do their best to work hard. Xiao Lu was concerned since the leadership's workload had increased significantly. Their personnel was halved, while the need for military supplies increased. Despite this, Nan was not concerned since the efficiency of their workforce would not alter much. Thus, it was all on him now. Efficiency may be doubled, through the combination of level 7 beast taming, level 6 Azura talents, and the right use of beast taming skills as well as specific/attribute strategies. In this manner, even with frequent shifts, the additional work won't interfere with the schedule. He was happy knowing that with this chief position dealing with Lin Yukai, the greedy old man, after draining his resources, just got a whole lot easier. Xiao Lu was furious, feeling that the job was completely absurd. She and the others planned to appeal to the leadership. Nan quickly stopped her and reassured her, telling her that he had already figured it out. Everyone was shocked to hear that. Xiao Lu didn't believe him because she suspected he was under a lot of stress, but she was also concerned since his body had just recently healed and he couldn't be as careless as before. Nan Zing stood up completely. He understood that everyone is concerned about his health, and he reassured everyone that they could trust him to do this assignment. Everyone believed in him and would follow his guidance. Everyone was driven to work harder to keep up with the schedule. At that time, a person was running. She moved so quickly that all that could be seen was her shadow. The main character noticed and realized that someone who quickly couldn't be one of their employees. While the other workers headed the opposite way, Nan Zing proceeded in the direction he saw the girl rushing towards. He arrived at that location and looked around, but he didn't see her anywhere. Someone pointed a pistol behind him, as she was surprised by his boldness in pursuing her. She instructed him not to make any moves and that she would ask him questions, which he had to answer right away. Nan Zing was stunned, wondering how she had gotten behind him. She questioned him about the order he received from Lin Yukai. How many are in the next batch, and will they deliver or pick it up? Nan Zing stated that she should ask Lin Yukai and his gang that question. The woman became irritated, asking him if he wasn't an accomplice working with them, and she ordered him to take her questions seriously. When Nan Zing realized she was distracted, a crimson glow emerged on his arm. He turned around and used his Azura talent. But before his plan could be executed, the lady swiftly dodged. She discharged her firearm. However, since he had activated his Azura talent, he was able to intercept the bullet, which just scratched his hand. He asked, "Who said he is an accomplice of that scum?" She withdrew, asking him that if that was the case, why was he assisting him? Nan Zing stated that he is not actually helping him, he is only carrying out the task he was given to Yi City. Even if he's a worm, a scumbag, or a traitor, he remains their superior for the time being. The woman was surprised that he knew about the greedy old man's dirty deeds. She put her revolver aside and suggested that they work together to take care of Lin Yukai. She then introduced herself, informing Nan Zing that her name is Zhang Yuan, and she works in Section 2 of the 8th Defensive Line Supply and Intelligence. Xiaonan gazed at her hand suspiciously as he remained silent. He firmly refused since he did not trust this lady. Furthermore, he had never met her in his previous life, making her much more risky to trust her in the first place. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in seeing more, feel free to hit the like button and leave a comment for suggestions on what you'd like to see next.